So I'm Curtis Corey. I'm a children's book author and illustrator, and I have several books available, including The Busy Little Gardener, which is photographs with my son, and it's written from his standpoint about his love of gardening. I have a fable with Frog, who meets friends who are having trouble doing things, and he asks them to just try, because you don't know if you can do something unless you try. Grandma and Grandpa, the motorcycle adventures of Grandma and Grandpa Gnome are about my parents traveling the country on motorcycles. My first two books, Two Clauses and oops, we're collapsing here. Two Clauses and First Flight are about Santa not having time to finish his rounds, so they build a second sleigh team for Mrs. Claus. And my newest one, which is going to be a series, is The Holiday School Bus. I'm a bus driver, so this is about taking a field trip to Santa's village to teach the kids that though making toys is fun, it's not necessarily easy. And we will be doing several other holidays as I get the time to do so. All right, I'm going to read from the Fae of Woodstock Valley. I live in Woodstock Valley, and this is about a group of fairies who were displaced from their home and came to live at my house. And I have a wishing well that I built that the fairies come out, that I put fairies out on, and kind of inspired the story. So I'm going to read about their village and my first two main characters, Elise and Hilmos. In a quiet Connecticut town of Woodstock Valley, in the deep dark woods, there are ruins of an old farmhouse. The fields no longer exist. Collapsed and buried with time, the stone walls are barely recognizable in the now thick forest. The barn is gone, only some stones to outline its previous shape. All that remains of the once grand New England farmhouse is a fireplace and chimney reaching up through the thicket. Not far from what was once the kitchen, an old well still stands. A large pine that had fallen years earlier leans over the well, forming a support for various vines to grow. The vines drape down, hiding the well from human sight under the veil of forest beauty. This long-forgotten farm has been erased from the memories of humans. Few people have ventured this deep into the forest. Fewer still have stumbled upon these ruins. To these people, the ruins were nothing to excite their interest. There are no trails making a hike to this area in the woods uninviting. To the naked eye, it is a desolate area rich in unremarkable plant, but void of animal life. If someone took the time to look carefully, they may notice a land long hidden. They may see what hides from human eyes. The flutters of wings swishing around the thicket gives glimpses of color against the green leaves. When the wind dies and the forest falls silent, for a brief second, a faint sound of music can be heard. This seemingly quiet forest is alive with the activities of an entire secret community. Within these ruins, the village of Asteria bustles with jubilant life. An entire town is long hidden away, safe from human interference. As far from Asteria, an adventurous young fairy flies over the pond, her violet and pink wings reflecting on the water. She dips her toes in the water as she skims the surface. From below, a fish breaks the surface in an attempt to grab her for a meal. With a quick spin, she avoids its attack. She lets out a giggle, and with a smile, she flies to the edge of the small pond. Her favorite treat, loosestrife, grows along the edge of this water. She lands on the purple flower, grabbing it with her talon-like toes, and drinks its sweet nectar. After a few big sips, she fills her canteen with a sweet liquid. She then gathers pollen in her bag to bring back home. A voice calls out to her, "Belize, Belize, there you are. Sorry I'm late." In stark contrast to the bright colors of Belize's fairy wings and her radiant beauty, the less vibrant Brownie, with his pale green clothes, blends into the greenery, almost invisible. A tuft of brown hair sits up on top of his otherwise bald head, and his face is hidden behind a layer of dirt and dust. "No worries, Hilmos," she yells as she flies down to meet him. That was the introduction to Asteria and my two main characters. The brownies are wingless fairies, kind of plain, and obviously your fairies are the more beautiful flower-like creatures. Do I read like another section?
Sure.
Let's see. wanted to introduce. Let's make sure I find the right spot to start. So we're going to introduce. They're living at the house. They've now found a new place to live for a bit, and they explore the water, and they're going to meet a whole different type of fae. Jex yells down the hole, who is down there? Are you okay? There is no response. All four of them grow concerned. They know they hurt someone. They wonder if they are hurt or worse. Hilmos enters the tunnel and climbs down to search for whoever screamed. He stops at the cave on the side. He calls to the back to his friends. It's dark down here, but it looks like the cave goes pretty far off to the side. Voice shouts from the water behind the friends. Why did you do that? Comston, Belize, and Jex turn to see the beautiful Fae in the water. Her small wings are the same size as the flutters. The wings vibrate, shaking the water off. Belize turns back to the hole. Hilmos, you need to get help here. Another of these Faes emerge from the water. His small wings vibrate and shakes the water off, and he stands with an imposing presence. They approach, Jex and the others, revealing long, flat, webbed feet instead of the bird-like talons, the fairies, and the human-like feet that the brownies have. Charmston spreads his wings wide in a show of strength. Who are you? The female answers back, who are you? Hilmos reaches the top of the hole to see Charmston and Jex stand face to face with these strange new Fae. Belize takes his hand and pulls him out of the hole. The two run to join their friends. I am Belize, this is Hilmos, Jex, and that is Charmston. We are from the village called Mungi, not far from here. Belize hopes to de-escalate the tensions. The male responds, Mungi? That is what the humans call this lake. Hilmos steps forward, screaming, yes, we named our village after their word. Still standing tall in a show of strength, Charmston demands, what are you? We have never seen Fae like you before. I am Clave, this is Driz. We are Limneys. You are fairies, and you're a brownie. Clave, the male Limney, says, looking over the group. Driz looks at you. What are you? I am a dragon, Jex responds. So they were meeting the Limneys, which are the water Fae in my book. Limney, the study of limnology is the study of freshwater estuaries. So the Limneys are your freshwater fairies. And Jex is a dragon that earlier in the book you could read about how they found her. Don't know what else to do.
Well, do you guys have any questions about the fairies?
Oh, it's a whole world that I don't know much about. They seem to know about the humans, but the humans don't know about them.
In the beginning of the book, the younger Fae, humans are nothing more than a legend. They haven't seen any, they don't know other than what they're told, and they feel like it's more to scare them away from wandering. But the humans ended up destroying their village. So they had to go head out. They grouped, the whole village split up into groups of about 10 and head out in separate directions to find a new home and to find a village that they heard something about. That's kind of another legend, is that there's another village of Fae somewhere. So they're all trying to go find this village and spread out and hopefully meet up again later on.
So that's something I've learned from Melody. Like, in order to have a story, you've got to have the backstory, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have almost it all mapped out, like a framework that your story sits on, right?
Right. Yeah, my first chapter lays most of that out. I read the first 2 pages, but it does go further.
Yeah.
Do the original group of fairies, do they end up discovering types of fairies they never knew of before? Like, did they know about dragons?
They found when they came to my house, because in the book I'm the giant. When I'm gardening, I find an egg, an obsidian egg. I give it to my son, and he puts it on the well because he's seen the fairies, and they haven't seen a dragon egg. It's a legend, another legend. They've heard the legend of how to hatch it, and later on they hatch it, and they're the fire fae. We have the brownies, who are your earth fae, your fairies, who are your air fae, and then you have the limneys, which are your water fae. So they're going on, and later on I do have a spin-off series where they're going to go look and find other dragons, like the limneys. they have smaller wings that are more like fins, larger feet that are more like flippers. So my fairies aren't magical; they're more science-based, like birds or insects would be.
Did you make up limnies?
Surprisingly, Lisa just was doing some research. I made up the word limni because I found out the word limnology was the study of freshwater estuaries, and I thought it was kind of cool. She was looking up fairies and found naiads, and there is actually the term limnads, which are freshwater naiads.
That's wild.
So I'm like, I wasn't far off.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Great minds work alike, right?
So my limnies aren't as far off from having to be explained all the time if people actually did any research. So if they do the research, I'm not way off in left field.
So this isn't a series that you wrote a while ago and you're never going back to. This isn't ongoing for you?
Originally this was going to be an illustrated series. I wrote the series so fast that in order to illustrate it, I figured it would be about 150 illustrations, and at that point the thought of trying to draw fairy faces and keeping them consistent that often was a little daunting, so I did it as a chapter book. I have a Christmas version, which is a transition between this and the dragon and 3 other even younger fairies, because this is mostly about a group of late teens, early 20 fairies, and they have younger siblings which are like 12 and 13. Well, they're gonna take off on their own, and I have a series mapped out to do 5 short stories of them going around northeastern Connecticut and meeting other fairy villages, because they found a map that had villages listed on it. So now that they want to go and explore, while the other fae are settling into their life.
So will those be chapter books or picture books?
I think they'll be chapter books. The Christmas one might be a picture book because I don't think it can stand alone. It's not going to be long enough to stand alone as a chapter book.
Yeah.
So either I would have to add it to the end of this one or at the beginning of the other ones, and I'm not sure it would fit.
The beauty of what you're building is at any point you can take a character or an incident and create a picture book.
Right.
That already has the whole world.
Yeah, at any point I can go back and turn these into picture books if I wanted to. But currently, the Holiday School Bus, I have 7 other stories already written. I have one called Rabbit's Garden written. I have The Frog Jump, which is 2 separate stories, and the book is going to be both stories together from a frog standpoint and my son's standpoint of doing a frog jump contest. That's already written. And I have
Swimming girl.
the beginning of a series called Calliope Can, and the first one's written, it's Calliope Can Swim. So I have a lot of drawing to do, but my mind keeps going, and I'm writing and writing and writing over and over again, and I just keep digging my illustrations further into a hole.
Wow. Yeah.
Have you even thought of, and I know that this is like probably a hated subject, but like if you entered the characters into AI,
I won't use AI.
Yeah.
No.
You could just like ask the AI to do them fishing, do them climbing out of the water.
Well, first aspect of it is I don't like the idea of AI. Second aspect is you can't make them, AI will not make a consistent character.
They won't.
So I asked for a fairy with purple wings this time doing this. Next time I ask it for a fairy with purple wings doing something else, it will not be the same fairy.
I don't know much about AI, even though
You thought you could enter like
guy.
this is the.
At some point it probably will
Well.
get to that point.
Yeah.
And maybe back when I first wanted to illustrate, I might
might have
have
gone
done
that
it
route,
as
yeah.
the easy way out.
Yeah.
But at
It's
the
very
moment,
personal to you.
I am very against AI doing that, and I'm seeing a lot of AI books, people using AI on children's books, even writing, and on some of the Facebook groups, and people are posting, well, can't I just write a whole book with AI? Well, you can, but did you
Then
actually
didn't
write it?
write it.
Or did AI just steal from every other author it could find online to write in that particular style?
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry to even bring it up. I'm sorry.
no, that's
Just
the
wants to
big
start
question right now.
Yeah.
AI is very big right now.
And I think you've got so many books out with your style that you're building a fan base who like your style and are eager to see more books. Like
Yes.
especially like with the holiday school bus, they'll
Yep.
love to see the same characters go on new adventures.
And if you look at the holiday school bus, I told you I'm the school bus driver. I'm even wearing the same shirt. That's
Oh,
me.
Really? Oh, that's so funny.
I have that blue hat at home. But so the school bus driver in the holiday school bus is me. And it actually, that started because my kids were talking about Christmas and how easy it was for Santa to make all their toys and everything like that. I'm like, oh, you just think it's easy to, so that's what started it. And then I have St. Patrick's Day, I have Earth Day written, I have Election Day and Halloween written, Valentine's Day and Easter are all written. It's just a matter of sitting down and drawing out 20 illustrations for each book.
We definitely have to get some for Salome.
Oh, I got one for Salome.
Did you?
Yeah, although we should get more at some point.
Yeah.
Because they're cute.
Very cute.
And I always say, I came a long way from my first doodles.
Well, as an author, it's like you sound like the quintessential. You see things in your life, and you see the potential for a story. Like just the conversation with the kids suddenly turns into a story.
Right, constantly. And
Yeah, that's great.
so, Just Try came from my sister-in-law telling me about two clauses when I was looking for illustrators. She goes, have you tried illustrating? Maybe you can. She goes, have you tried? Maybe you should just try. So that's the basis behind that book. I drew a picture of a garden during the pandemic when we first moved to our house in Woodstock, and I called it the Busy Little Garden. And I started writing, and it turned into the Busy Little Gardener. So then we just used pictures, more as I was going to try it, and it would be a cute thing for my family, and then I could try and draw the pictures later on if I wanted to. But it seems kids relate to it because they can actually see the kid. I get a lot of compliments from like the younger first and second grade teachers that they relate to it because they can see an actual kid. So that's been going over well there. And then in the fairy book, my son is referred to by the fairies as the busy little gardener in the fairy books. So I try and connect all these. There's those Easter eggs in each one where they all connect. Obviously the school bus is me, the driver's me.
That's great.
Melody, do you have any questions?
Sorry, I just wanted to
No,
look at
no, that's
pictures.
fine. I don't.
That's fine.
I was saying that it is.
Oh, I don't think I had any particular questions.
Have you always been into fairies? Because does this go back to your childhood, or is this
I did.
something?
I used to do Renaissance fairs. And I was trying to turn it into a business. I did sword fighting and stuff, and I had a group at one point. But afterwards, I started doing some woodworking. I did wooden cutouts, like the shadows. You see wolves and stuff. Just plywood cut out in shapes. And I did a whole series of fairies for that. And I had them around my house. And then when we moved to Putnam, when I built the well, I told my wife I wanted to put fairies in that. I have little fairy statues, and I found the little brownie statues, which is what these guys are modeled after. And every year we put them out, and that's what inspired the story. I've always liked the whole idea of the Fae, and not so much as the magical creatures, but what they would be like if in real life. You know, my fairies, their wings will glow, but it's bioluminescence. It's not magic. You know, they don't.
I thought fairies were all magical.
Not mine. Mine are more, think of them as just another bird or an animal. There's no magic to it.
Oh, okay.
In fact, they have a hard time flying when it's too cold or too hot. So in the heat of the summer, they can't if it's noontime on a hot day, they're not going to be able to fly because it affects their wings. And if it's too cold when winter comes, they really can't fly, which is why they work well with the pixies or the brownies, because they can do more of the work during those points because they're stronger.
I do have a question now.
Haha.
What's your favorite project to work on of like your ongoing projects, would you say?
My favorite project?
Or if one's over, is there one that makes you go, I wish I was still working on that?
Right now, I'm trying to get more into things that will be more the tween era. I really want to have a voice. You know, I enjoyed doing Just Try because there's an actual that fable has that lesson for the kids, which is why I wanted to make sure the holiday school bus had a lesson. And even the Woodstock, I'm trying to do things that have some kind of lesson, and I'm trying to expand. I have so much written in the kids. Like I said, I can draw for a year now and never write another thing. But I want to write. I have a young 13-year-old girl's birthday. I'm really trying to get back to writing on that one, and where she has an eating habit because grandma's constantly, "You'd be so pretty if you just lost a few pounds." And I was the skinny kid who was the opposite. My grandmother constantly was like, "You need to eat something. You need to eat something. You're too skinny. You need to eat something." Well, look where I am now. Now I'm trying to lose the weight. So I'm trying to. I want to do more. I want to make sure my books have a meaning behind it, and I have several of them in the works, and it's just a matter of. It's a matter of inspiration, and then got to go back through and reread so I can get back in that mindset, because all of my books are so different. I have adult stuff from a different name, and they vary so much that once you get away from it, it's hard to get back to it. And if I stopped to illustrate the holiday school bus on an LGBTQ low fantasy book, and I'm having a hard time to get back to it, because now I've got to get that mindset, get back in that world, and when I write, it's my character. I feel my characters. I may have an idea where it's going, but most of my books go a whole different direction once the characters take me over, so to speak. That makes sense.
So your favorite is the one that you're working on.
The one that I'm working on now is always my favorite.
Yeah. But
And that might
generally,
change tomorrow.
you like having like a message, and that's kind of what you're aiming for in your books right now.
Do you write as much as Melody?
No.
Do you write every
But he
day?
illustrates a lot more.
That's true.
No, I kind of got stuck in a couple TV. So I get hyper focused. I got hyper focused on a couple TV shows. That's why I don't watch TV shows with longer than a few seasons already out. So I got sucked in. So I haven't done a whole lot. If I sit down and start writing, drawing, I will get hyper focused until that book is done. And it could be two or 3 weeks of me ignoring other things around me just to get it done. I need to get it done, which is why most of my books are short stories, and even my novellas that I'm trying to write, it's more series of short stories with an underlying theme. So each chapter could be a story in itself, so that I can get the whole thing out and have it there.
I didn't mean to ask it like a compare. I just meant with Melody, it's like sort of exercise. She's always got to sort of get her writing in. If it's been a day and she hasn't written, she's got to get back in there writing again.
I'm always thinking.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily writing, getting it down. I'm always thinking. There's
You're always
things going through
forward.
my head that
Yeah.
it's insane what's going through my head sometimes. And
There
way
should
too
be
many
a certain
things.
amount of thinking
Yeah.
if you're going to be writing. So
I don't
it's
always have the time to get down to write
No
between
No thoughts, only right.
between wife, child.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you, as soon as I sit at the computer, if it's after work and he's there, never mind YouTube blaring in your ear from on the other side.
Yeah. Oh, young kids, they got to have all the time.
I think maybe a few times my wife will go away, take my son, like stay at her mother's for a day or something. You're like, oh my God, I can write. No, the silence is just nice. You think I could go write, right?
I feel like the more free time you have, sometimes the harder it is to write because you're like, it opens up for me.
Yep.
I could write at any time.
And technically, I go to work until 5 to 9 in the morning. I have all day until 1:30.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it. But it's all about inspiration with me. I get inspired and I'll get hyper focused for a while.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
I believe.
Anything else you wanted to say about your books? Where can we find your books?
All of my books are available on Amazon. Look up Curtis K. Corey and hopefully you can find them. It depends on the algorithms of that day. I do fairs usually in the fall, but I try and do a couple like craft fairs and stuff, and my books lend themselves well to being at craft fairs because they're gifts, and I find grandparents really like to buy a book for their kids. So my target isn't the kid that comes by, my target's grandma.
That's right. Yeah.
Even more than mom and dad. I see grandma come by, I'm like, I got a sale coming. But you can find me there. I have Facebook at author Curtis K. Corey. Twitter is at Corey Author, and Instagram is at author Curtis K. Corey. I don't even remember mine. And anyone can always email me at curtiskcorey@gmail.com if anyone is interested.
Oh, I love it.
I'd love to see the fairy garden someday.
You could give tours.
My neighbors, if this ever takes off, my neighbor's going to hate me. My little private community could become.
Are you getting the garden ready?
I'm trying to. It's overwhelming right now.
Oh, this time of year, yeah.
I gotta clean up my vegetable garden, the yard. And the good thing is around the wishing well doesn't take a whole lot of work because
Fortunately, you have a busy little gardener to help you.
No. Once upon a time, yes, not anymore. If it's not video games and YouTube.
Oh my.
But around my well, I do a more of a meadow. It's a small area, but I let the grass grow, and we throw wildflower seeds, and we're trying to form a native wildflower meadow around my fairy garden.
Nice.
Well, we do that in our yard, but we don't spread the seeds. We just don't cut it. We've gone whole summers where we let that side lawn grow. And it's like this tall. It's beautiful purple and yellow and red.
Yeah, my front yard, we planted our four fruit trees in it. We have the wishing well, and along the street is a pollinator garden, and around the wishing well I started doing a meadow, just a natural meadow, trying to help the bees and everything else.
Nice.
My backyard I mow.
Yeah, I keep hearing people online saying, "Don't cut your lawn." It's like, really?
No mow May.
People are really gonna start cutting stuff.
The problem was I did no mow May and no rake fall, and I lost all my grass in my backyard. I told my wife, you get one or the other now. The backyard, something has.
Yeah.
The leaves I think the leaves should come up because the bees will, the bumblebees will make little nests in the leaves and wrap themselves in leaves.
Aww.
And if you can blow them away and put them up elsewhere, but if you mow over them, it's a different story.
Yeah.
That sounds
You got to find that balance, that environmental balance.